are Liz and Elizabeth from Simple Simon and Company, and here we are at part 3 of our summer quilt along with our traditional quilt.
All right, so if you remember, they're all nautical inspired, and so today we have the nautical flag, the letter F, Foxtrot, and this one is a really great quilt block because you're going to learn to make a really staple quilt block, a half square triangle. Let's get started. What you're going to need is you're going to need 2 squares of 2 different colors. Because we're doing the traditional one, we're going to make it exactly like the letter F in the nautical quilt. So you're going to need 2 squares that are white and 2 that are red, and I cut mine at 6 inches by 6 inches. Now Elizabeth is ready over here, and she is drawing a line from one side to the other diagonally across the square. So you can see we've got a diagonal line. Now she's going to bring it over to the sewing machine. We have right sides together, so the line she drew was on the wrong side of the fabric. We put right sides together, and she is going to do a line a 1/4 inch on each side of that line. All right, so she has sewn down both sides of that line. Now the cool thing about this quilt block is you just made a half square triangle. Called a half square triangle because it's a square cut in half and you make a triangle. But the cool thing is every time you make one of them, you actually make 2 of them every time. In my head, it saves me time. I don't know if that's true, but I get 2 blocks for the price of 1. So
all I did was just chop down that line that we made right at the beginning.
Okay.
We'll just need to press them open.
And again, I'm just going to bring it over here and I'm going to press towards the darker fabric, so away from the white, and towards the red. And I'm going to have a half square triangle block. I'll finish. I'll pass this back to you if you want to chop his tails off.
I sure can.
Now, I don't always chop the tails off, to be honest. Elizabeth does, but if you do chop the tails off, it does reduce bulk in your quilt.
That's exactly why I do it, because when I'm quilting, that extra little bulk on the sides, it's not necessary. Sometimes I don't, but I kind of do. I mostly do.
Okay, so I'm going to have this all pressed out and ready to go. Now, I told you at the beginning you're going to need to have 2 white squares and 2 red squares, and that's because once you've got your first set done, you're going to repeat the same process one more time, so you actually will end up with 4 blocks. Now, the way that ours go together is like this. This makes the letter F, and it also is a sign if it's used by itself, like as a flag. It just means that you need like some communication with you. You've got a problem and you need to have communication. So
I love that you know all of these.
I'm a nerd for factoids.
You do like factoids.
I love factoids.
If you need a fact trivia game, you should be her partner.
I should be on Jeopardy.
You should.
I would win that thing. All right.
I'd like to see it.
Back to this. So the cool thing too about this block, besides that you get 2 blocks for every one that you make, is that this block you can see in almost any quilt that you look at. Half square triangles are used everywhere in quilting. And so we're going to show you a few ways. This is how we're going to make the block today, but we're going to show you can mess these up right now and make about 1 million different quilt blocks with it.
So this is the block that we're going to make today, but there are so many different quilt blocks that you can make with a half square triangle. For example, you can make a pinwheel, or you can do arrows, which are sometimes known as flying geese. You can turn that arrow into a chevron. You can also do a diamond shape. This one we did all white toward the middle. You can also do a broken dishes, which is a very traditional quilt block. And then I like to call this a 4-patch, where just all of your half square triangles are lined up in a row. And here we are back to how we're going to use it in our quilt.
All right, now that we have our block laid out, we just need to sew our 4 pieces together. So we're going to do...
If you will tell them what I'm doing, I will start.
Okay, so she's just putting right sides together. So she's just making a sandwich. She's putting right sides to right sides, red touching red, white touching white, and then she's going to sew them together right down the side with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Easy enough. And what she's going to do right now is I'm going to hand her this next piece, and it's called chain piecing. And so instead of after you sew each block together, you chop it off and pull it out and iron it, we're going to do what's called chain piecing, where we're just going to keep putting those blocks in back to back. We just do a couple of stitches in between each block, and then we can just keep zooming all of those pieces through. It makes it a little bit faster when you're doing a lot of quilt blocks.
I'll just snip this apart for you and then.
Okay. And then I'm just gonna press these over.
See how well I did with my points?
It's a little off. Don't look too closely. Now when I press these, I am gonna do one seam going one direction and one seam going the other direction. It's kind of like nesting your seams. So we're gonna do the other guy going this way. And that way when we put them together to sew them, they'll kind of slide together nicely. So I did one seam going one direction and one going the other direction. There's no really going one towards the light or one towards the dark because we're pressing our seams both towards the red side. Okay, I think I've got them ready for you.
Well, and you'll see where she's done both of them in opposite directions. They just kind of fit together. It's almost like a little puzzle piece. And they just stay in there nice and tight, and you can get a good seam.
Now, if you're a pinner, and Elizabeth usually is a pinner, you can pin that seam together right there so you can have everything nice and tight. I don't usually pin, I just stick them in the machine and get going. Again, she's just
I'm using your method today, Liz.
Yeah. Now she's just doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. And then when we open it up, we're gonna have like this nice diamond pattern that's going to make our nautical quilt block.
There we go.
All right, open we go. I'm gonna do one last pressing. And then this guy is going to be done, done, and done.
You will want to trim up all of your blocks. We have talked about that in another video, so you can check that out. But you will want to trim all of them so they're perfectly at about 10 inches, not at about, at 10 inches by 10 inches. See, there's the perfectionist in me talking.
All right, we are finished. Now this one is done. And as we showed you before, there's lots that you can do with half square triangles. So we just brought another one that's more traditionally done. So we've got our nautical inspired, and then we have like a traditionally inspired one with more like you would see in quilts with pattern fabric. So we are done with this one. We have one more quilt block to make, and we will be done with all the quilt blocks for our traditional nautical quilt.
See you next time.